Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Game of Thrones character spotlight right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, here to bring you the latest in this week's Game of Thrones character spotlight. And this will be the first of two character spotlights discussing characters that intrigue me. And what better way to kick things off than with the character that probably intrigues me the most in this entire series, and that is none other than the Spider himself, Lord Varys. Now, the main reason why Lord Varys is probably the character that intrigues me the most is because, as we speak, as of this point in time in the series, as of the previous episode, Season 4, Episode 4, Oathkeeper, I still don't know what Lord Varys' ends are. I still don't know what his catch is. I still don't know what his major motivation is. Now hear me out, because I'm going to dwell into more detail about this in this video. But this is what I mean. First off, consider Varys' past. Now we know from the beginning he's a foreigner. You know, I don't think they ever mention specifically where he's from, but we do know that he's not from Westeros. His homeland resides somewhere across the Narrow Sea. And so yes, he is sort of an alien amongst the others in King's Landing. You know, he's the foreigner, the outsider. And I think that's illustrated well just in the way that some of the other characters treat him and how they respond to him. Now remember, when we first get introduced to Varys, he's already a member of the Small Council. He already has his position of power. And before we even learn anything about his backstory, we know that he goes by the name of the Spider. He has spies throughout all of King's Landing. And everything we learn about his past is mentioned in passing, you know, and most of it comes from him himself. Now keep that in mind, because it's going to come up again when I arise at my point. But going back into his backstory, so we know that much about him. We learn that at some point in time he came from humble origins, and later he joined a crew of actors, performers. And you know, in that scene between Varys and Ned in the prison cell in season 1, you know, Ned says, it's like, you grew up with actors and you learned their craft well. Now keep that in mind, because it's going to come up later when I arrive at my point. So we have a foreigner that we know very little about, mostly from his own mouth. Then we learn that he used to perform with a group of actors, and some way, somehow, made his way to Westeros, assumed a position on the Small Council, and he is the chief agent in a network full of spies. The point I'm trying to make is, Varys is a character who from Jump Street, from his first introduction, is suspect. He's suspect. He's questionable. We're talking about a man who is an actor and who deals in information gathering. He deals in espionage. So yes, the word of said man to me is immediately suspect. And that brings me to how Varys and Ned, you know, how they share their last moments, their last conversation, where Varys is pretty much, when he outright tells Ned, I want what is best for the kingdom. And if that means you have to do this, then this is what I urge you to do. So, from that, we at least get the idea that, okay, so Varys wants what's best for the kingdom. Is that true? Well, let's think about this. Let's go ahead and let's evaluate Varys' actions since season 1, because that's pretty much where we lead off with Varys in season 1. You know, after Ned's execution, you know, we got that little reveal from Varys, and then we end season 1 with his sort of mutual acknowledgement of Littlefinger, where they both go back and forth sharing one of their, banters and whatnot about how they respect each other because, of their positions and their upbringings and this, that, and the other. But let's examine Varys after season 1. Okay, so in season 2, we know that he befriends Tyrion. Now, my thing is whether or not his befriending of Tyrion was legitimate, whether it was sincere, whether or not he really was concerned with Tyrion's well-being, both as a person and both as the Hand of the King at the time. Let's focus on what was the end-all be-all result. Remember, Varys was very instrumental in providing Tyrion with the information he needed to plan his strategy for Blackwater. Varys had a hand in that. He gave Tyrion information throughout the season where Tyrion was finally, once he got all the pieces he needed, came up with his strategy and implemented it at Blackwater, thereby saving King's Landing from Stannis' siege. Okay. By then you would argue, hey, he did what was best for the kingdom, right? Okay, fine. Valid argument. But then when we get into season 3, that's where things start getting a little more sketchy. And this is what I mean. In season 3, Varys becomes overly suspicious of Littlefinger, more so than I think he ever has been in the series, to the point where he enlists Roz's help to pretty much serve as a double agent, to spy on Littlefinger and to deliver this information to Varys. And we saw that by season end, Roz paid for it because Littlefinger had her killed, and then Littlefinger had pretty much reaped the benefits of his efforts, and he was off on his way. And since then, it seemed as if Varys has sort of fallen back into the shadows, you know what I mean? Now, everything I've said about the character up to this point in regards to his actions throughout the series do fall in line with his claim in season 1, that he is someone who is legitimately looking out for what's best for the kingdom. It could also be argued that that's another reason why he doesn't really throw his power around. Remember, Varys is one of the few characters who have served on the small council that does that either falls along the extreme of ambitious and falls along the extreme of servitude. Because it seems like with most of the characters on the small council, they lean either way. Either they're ambitious, they want to assume more power for themselves, or they're in full-fledged servitude of those who are already in power. On the one side, when we're talking about ambitious, we have Littlefinger. On the other side, when we're talking about servitude, we have Parcell. And then I think somewhere in the middle, we had Renly. Because Renly was very much a servant while Robert was still in power. But the second Robert, when Robert died, then we saw Renly starting to move to being more ambitious. So I think with Renly, it was more so a matter of circumstance. He only acted once the events were in place for him to do so. But Varys is that one character that has teetered that line. He's never really gone to one or the other. And it seems like he only plays the servitude hand where he knows it serves him right, where he knows it benefits him. You know what I mean? He doesn't really take risk. And he at no point in the series does he ever overstep his bounds. He never power checks anyone. Which now leads me to believe something. Maybe, and hear me out about this, but this could be so. Upon further evaluation, I'm thinking that Lord Varys may be the only legitimate check and balance that there exists in King's Landing. For that exact reason. He isn't ambitious on his own, nor is he a complete, foamed at the mouth, drone servant. No. He does work in the shadows. He does manipulate the game to his own, to his favor. But he never does it to a point where he intrudes. And I think or at least I'm starting to think that might have something to do with the fact that Varys is smart enough to know that, hey, I'm the guy that can actually pull these power figures to sort of operate at the point in which it doesn't completely result in our, destruction, in the complete fucking fall of our kingdom. So maybe whenever these people do get a little power hungry, when they get a little power drunken, when they start throwing their weight around, I'm smart enough to fall back into what my role is supposed to be, so I don't raise suspicion, so I don't step on anyone's toes, so I don't cross any boundaries, so I don't split any hairs, and that way I'm always around. That way I always stick around, so that I can keep the balance once again. Now granted, like I said, I don't think it's a fair balance. I mean, remember, we had fucking Joffrey as king for 2.5 seasons. So I'm not saying it's a fair balance, but it's still a balance. You know what I mean? Despite the war that's been going on, King's Landing has never, they still have not broken out into full-blown chaos. They haven't broken out into full-blown insurrection. And I can't help but think that maybe it's Varys' position that's keeping that whole thing at bay. The spider on your shoulder, if you will. You know what I mean? But like I said, once again, this is based entirely off of what we've been presented in the series. So who knows? Maybe there are elements that are in the books that aren't expressed in the series that gives more insight into the character. Maybe there are things yet to come in the series that we don't know about him yet. But that's why I said, even to this point, as strong as a theory that I just presented to you all in this video, I'm not 100% sold on it yet. Not yet. I'm still sort of on the fence about it, like, okay, that sounds solid, but I need more proof. I need more evidence before I can really get behind this character. You know what I mean? So, there's that. So all in all, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on Lord Varys. A very mysterious character, definitely move in mysterious ways. But to what ends, to what final goal, to what end-all, be-all is he trying to achieve within the course of this story? I don't know. I guess all we can do is just watch and imagine. We'll find out though. Anywho, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the first in the Game of Thrones character spotlights that will be dropping this weekend. I want to thank you all for joining me again this weekend. In the comments below, please leave your thoughts on Lord Varys. Let me know what you guys think about this character. And also, don't be afraid to like, share this video. And don't also forget, guys, join me in the Game of Thrones TV room on Beamly.com. As always, link is in the description box below. And for those of you all who have yet to join the Game of Thrones TV room on Beamly, you're going to want to very soon, because I have a major announcement dropping at the end of the next Game of Thrones character spotlight, which will be coming to you shortly. And with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and until next time, peace.